Hello, and welcome to our final call for December. I'm so happy that you're here with us. And if you're live, I'm glad you can make it live. And if you're watching the replay, welcome. So, in this final call, I want to share an extremely powerful and potent technique that you can use to heal emotional trauma, to rewrite mindsets or beliefs that aren't serving you anymore, and to really do some deep healing work. I know that Lori in the check in section before we started recording mentioned how nice it's been to just get in the practice of using oils every day. And of course, get oils on you, turn on your diffuser. That is a great place to start. Like, if nothing else, you rub some oils on the bottom of your feet every morning, put something in the diffuser, and rub something on your feet before you go to bed. That's going to make an impact in your life and have some pretty incredible changes for you. As Vivian shared with us, the essential oils, especially balance, just its ability to oxygenate our blood cells is enough for me. If that's the only thing essential oils could do, I would be like, yeah, I'm sold. Like, give me oils. But there's something else that essential oils can do when you use them with intention and when you use them kind of as a part of a process, as a part of your healing. And it's their ability to really go into your brain and rewrite neural pathways, clear off receptor sites, and help you to anchor in the mindsets and the beliefs that you want, while at the same time, you can process unresolved trauma. You can release unresolved trauma. The essential oils, when you smell essential oils, they actually go up into your olfactory system. They hit the amygdala, which is where we store trauma. They interact with all the different receptors, with all the different hormones, secretions. There's so much that's going on in your brain. Certain essential oils will balance serotonin or dopamine or GABA, and we can get really into the science of the brain chemistry when it comes to these aromatic extracts. But tonight, what I want to talk about specifically is if you are someone who is on a healing journey, and if you have experienced any trauma in your life, and I'm talking little trauma, big trauma, childhood trauma, there's so much in between, right? Um, I had Kayla Rose on my podcast. If you haven't listened to her story, please go listen. But Kayla Rose had something happen to her where she had her birth control fail. And so her body was hit with all these synthetic hormones all at once. That's a form of trauma, right? I myself had not only childhood abuse, but then I was in a domestic violence relationship. That's a form of trauma. I've been in a car accident. That's a form of trauma. Many of us who are from Southern Oregon, we lived through fires. That's a form of trauma. There's many different ways that this can show up, emotional trauma. And what will often happen is when we have this trauma, this emotional pain, and we don't process it and it doesn't get metabolized through our system, it will turn into a belief or a mindset pattern. And I always think of this when I remember what it was like for me to go through my healing process where I was getting off of recreational drugs and I was in therapy and I was actually taking pharmaceuticals to help with anxiety and depression. And my psychiatrist said, your brain will get these pathways, these neural pathways, and you can think of them as like a groove, kind of if you're watching the video, this groove that happens. And then your thoughts run that track and they run that track over and over again. And the groove gets so deep that if the thought wanted to jump off the track, it couldn't, because it's like train tracks, or you're riding your bicycle and you can't, like, if you accidentally go up on the side where the grass is, you fall down, right? So your brain is running through this one track. And that might be okay if the track is a mindset or a belief that's something you want to cultivate. But if it's something you don't want to cultivate and it actually gets you, or it comes up a lot for you and it causes pain in your life, for example, the I'm unworthy, I'm not good enough, I'm unlovable trap, right? That's not serving us at all. Or the I fail at everything, I can never be successful, I'm not smart track. Or I always get cheated on, nobody loves me, everybody betrays me. These are all mindset tracks that happen because of an emotional pain that isn't processed, isn't metabolized through our body, and then we get stuck there. But our brain is amazing because we can rewrite over these tracks. We can build new beliefs. We can stitch over them so that we can get out of that track and then fall into a better track. So we can write the track, I am worthy. I am successful. I am loved. I attract amazing partners to me. And I'm going to show you a technique that we do with essential oils to help us write over this track. So just take a moment before we kind of get into this and kind of think of a mindset, a negative belief that you default to a lot that you would like to change. And go ahead and put it in the chat. One that I default to a lot is that I'm not smart. I have some trauma around school because I wasn't allowed to go to school and I wasn't really homeschooled. I was just kind of left to my own devices. And I got out into the world and I was like, I'm dumb. And so I do have this belief system that I'm not smart. I don't know how to spell. I can't do math. I'm not good. Um, like I'm not book smart. So put something in there that comes up a lot for you that you want to work on, that you're kind of ready to go, you know what, I'm ready to rewrite this. I'm not safe in the world. Yep, that's a big one. I understand that one. Another one that I have is I always get betrayed. Like if I let myself love someone or become close with someone, they'll ultimately betray me. So go ahead and put one that is coming up for you in the chat, and we will talk about how you work with this. So with aromatherapy, I want to show you something before we get into this. Oh yeah, the financial struggle. I struggle financially, right? I'm not good with money. Or even the belief that money is the root of all evil. We have some of these beliefs too that are societal, they're conditioning, which can come from generational trauma. We can also work on this generational trauma as well. Not believing that God or spirit or the universe has my back. Oh, that I'm difficult, right? Or we talked about this last week with the boundaries, that I'm a bitch because I have boundaries. Or just as a woman, am bitchy or difficult or high maintenance. Okay, thank you for sharing all of those. I want to show you something here. Hopefully I didn't load this into my widgets. So sorry. Let me do this really fast. So with essential oils, we have a very powerful tool at our fingertips because of the way that they go in, like I was talking about before, they go in through our olfactory system. They can actually activate that amygdala and release or kind of excavate maybe emotional trauma that's held there. And then the other thing that they can do is they can go in and help us anchor in a particular mindset or a belief. So when we pair these two things together, we can have something really magical happen. But let's table that for a second. We're going to come back to it. And I want to switch to teaching you a bit about how to know what oil to use in a particular situation. So we're talking about these mindset beliefs, these negative emotions. And I want to break one down for each of us. So let's take the one not believing that God or spirit or the universe has our back. And just put a one in the chat if you've ever had a belief, like if you've ever had this come up, this feeling of, well, God doesn't take care of me, or if God was there, this wouldn't have happened, or God doesn't answer my prayers, or maybe there's no purpose, there's no meaning out there, there's no one listening to me. Okay, so this is the belief. Now, what we can do is we can actually go into our memory bank and ask ourselves, what was the first time I ever felt that way? Most likely, it will be a memory from when you were a child. So, see if you can come up with the first time you ever felt like God didn't have your back, like there wasn't a loving God out there looking out for you. And once you catch the memory, it is possible that the memory will feel a little spiky, like you won't necessarily want to dig into it too much. And so you can just give yourself a little bit of kindness. It's okay. We're going to dig into it a little bit. But on the other side of this, we're going to have some healing. And ask yourself, what is the emotion that brought up for you? And I'm going to give us a little tool to help us, because sometimes emotions they can be hard to grab onto. So we need to use an emotions wheel. So don't worry about the oils or anything right now. Just take a look at the emotions there. Anxious, insecure, apathetic, discouraged, gloomy, distressed, somber, disinterested, bored, disconnected, bitter, angry, ashamed, sad, grieving, hurt, worried, fearful. Now, which emotion does that memory bring up for you? Which emotion does that memory bring up for you? And you can do this the opposite way too. You could be in a state where you're like, oh, I'm just feeling really discouraged. And you could say, when was the first time I ever felt really discouraged? Okay, so we're going to come back to this in just a moment. I want to talk a little bit more about this wheel. So when you have an emotion that you know that you want to work with, so I just saw fear come in the chat. When you're disconnected, fear. When you're working with that emotion, and you might ask, okay, what oil am I going to use to help with this? You can go over to the emotions wheel, and we're going to go to fearful, and you will see that fearful and the florals go well together. So a floral would be jasmine, rose, magnolia, neroli, ylang ylang, clary sage, geranium. These are all the florals. And since there was two emotions, it was either disconnected or fear or both. We might go over to the disconnected, and you'll find that disconnected is in the herbs and the grasses. So rosemary, marjoram, thyme, oregano, peppermint. Peppermint will be in mints actually. Will be the herbs and the grasses. So the first thing you're going to decide is, which oil do I want to work with? And these little blends that I have on the screen, these are from the Emotional Aromatherapy Kit. doTERRA made it very easy for us and put these different blends together that fall in these categories. But you can do this with what you have on hand. So I'm looking at my Aroma Essentials kit right in front of me, and I've got Serenity and Citrus Bloom. That would certainly be in the flowers area. And if I wanted herbs and grasses, I I might have to reach into Adaptive, because it has the rosemary there. So I want you first to, let's just take a moment and everyone come up with the emotion that you want to work with right now. So you can go into it either way. You can come up with an emotion that you're feeling currently, or you can come up with that negative belief and we can work into that emotion. So I'll give you another example to help with this. I always struggle financially. So go to, when was the first time you ever felt that you always struggle financially? When was the first time you felt that? There's going to be a memory. Really let yourself go into that memory and identify what is the emotion that is there. And so I'm sure it's kind of universal, this financial thing. So we could probably all do this just to practice. I'm going to try to think of the first time I felt that feeling of financial struggle. Oh, and it's so interesting. For me, it's fear. Fear. So I'm going to go to fear, and it's florals. So put a 1 in the chat once you've identified your emotion. This is just a practice run. We're going to be able to do this with whatever our own is. Okay, so now that you've identified your emotion, you're going to look over to the wheel and find out, are you working with a mint, a citrus, a spice, an herb, a grass, a tree, a floral? Okay, we've got a tree. So now you can look at your kit of oils and find a tree. If I was looking in the Aroma Essentials kit, since that's the one we're talking about, that would be Northern Escape or Balance. Floral, we talked about that. Tree, okay, we have that. A couple of florals, couple of trees. Okay, great. So I'm still going to just give you an example before you can do this on your own for your own emotion. But if we're working with the financial aspect, and I've identified that first memory, it was fear. I'm going to ask myself, what was the negative belief that I came up with in that memory? And maybe it's the same, that I always struggle financially. For me, it's different though. So you can do this on your own to meditate with it. You know, you might need to close your eyes and really go deeply into that memory. Sometimes we'll repress these memories because we're protecting ourselves. So it will take a moment of giving yourself permission to go into that memory, maybe closing your eyes, even putting your hand on your heart and saying, it's okay, we can go there. I might remember, where was I? In a house, in a car, outside? Who was there? What was I wearing? Try to remember all the details of the moment and then just really feel that emotion. And as you're feeling that emotion, you're looking for, what was that real core belief that I developed in that moment around this financial stability issue? And for me, what's coming up is that I can't trust money, that money can't be trusted, that money is a trickster and I got to watch out for it. And you can't want it or depend on it too much because it can't be trusted. So that's personally the belief that I seem to have formed in that moment. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to ask myself, okay, if the negative belief that isn't serving me is that money is not to be trusted, what is the positive belief that I would like to rewrite over that old belief? And it would be that money is caring and loving, and money is supportive. Money is supportive. That's that's what it is for me. And I'm going to take my oil. So I identified that for me it was fear. So I'm going to work with a floral. I personally have two to choose from right now: citrus bloom or serenity. I love citrus bloom, so I'm going to go with that. And then it's kind of interesting. I know that this is a blend with citrus too, so I can look over and see discouraged, gloomy, and distressed is also helpful with citrus. So that's great. And what I'm going to do is I will take a drop of this citrus bloom and I'm going to inhale it while I say out loud 3 times my positive affirmation. Money is a caregiver. Money is caring. Money takes care of me. And so that's the exercise. What I've done there, and I'm going to stop this share for a moment because I want to see if there's questions. What I've done there is I've opened up the wound that was that trauma, that memory of when I decided that money was something to be feared and that money was tricky. I've opened it up by thinking about it and feeling it and identifying the emotions and identifying the core belief that was developed. And with the power of the essential oils and the aroma and the power of speaking out loud this positive belief, I'm now rewriting over that belief. And most importantly, I'm anchoring that belief into my brain now with an aroma. So over the next few weeks, the next 3 months, the next year, I can work with this aroma of citrus bloom. Maybe I diffuse it in my home. Maybe I anoint all my dollar bills with it. Maybe I have it be a part of my practice where I say those positive affirmations and I smell that oil. And this whole process is clearing out any more emotional trauma that I have around that belief and rewriting over that neural pathway this new belief system. So I'm excited for you all to do this with your particular emotions, but I want to stop for a moment and see if there's any questions. So feel free to put it in the chat if anything comes up there for you. I'm glad you love it, Lori. Okay, everybody's just with me. Okay, so now I'm going to guide you through this whole process all over again. And you're each going to do it with your particular belief that you want to rewrite. So, your first step is to decide, do you want to dive into an emotion and kind of figure out what the belief is? Or are you very clear about a belief that you would like to rewrite? And just put a 1 in the chat once you know what the emotion you want to work with is, or what is the belief you want to work with. I'm still like blown away with that money one. It was so great. Thank you for bringing up the money belief. That is a good one. So if you're struggling with figuring out what you want to work on, you can think about, what is something that comes up for me a lot? What's something I butt up against a lot? Maybe there is a particular memory that oh, that memory needs some work or some healing. What was the last trigger that you had, or what was the last fight that you had? If you could just put a 1 in the chat to tell me you're ready to go on. I don't want to go on without you. Okay, it looks like I got everybody. Just want to make sure. One more person is there. Everybody's ready. Okay, great. So now you're going to close your eyes and give yourself permission. You can place your hand on your heart. Give yourself permission to really go into this memory. And it might be a little painful, but it's okay, because we're going to transmute some of this pain. We're going to heal some of this pain. We're going to find out what belief we took on in that moment, and we're going to rewrite it. So I know it's scary, might be painful, you might cry, and it's okay. Just keep holding yourself at your heart. I like to hold myself at my belly. It's okay to remember this. So if you're working with an emotion, you're going to ask yourself, when was the first time I ever felt that emotion? What's the memory? And trust what comes up. At first it might just be a picture or a name, or a moment, a time of your life, trust it. You might not be totally clear about what it is at first. And once it appears, you're going to dive deeper into it. Okay, let's go deep into that memory. How old were you? Who was with you? Where were you? What was said? What was done? What time of day was it? Let's go into all the details. What did the room smell like? Were you sitting or standing? Look around at the environment, the horizon. Now, really let yourself feel this. Let yourself dig up this memory, dig up this emotion, dig up this wound, this trauma. Really dive into it. If there's tears, let the tears come. The tears are healing and they're good. It is like we're opening an old wound that has healed, but it's a scar, and we're getting some of that scar tissue out of there. It's okay. Let it release. Let it release. Are there any other emotions that have come up besides the first one you thought of? Allowing all those emotions to come out, feeling whatever's there for you to feel, fully holding space for this tear in this moment in time. If you were a little kid when this memory happened, you can scoop your little self into your arms and give her a big hug, telling her you're here now, you're sitting with her. She's not alone. Now, ask yourself, what was the belief that I developed at this moment? What was the belief that I developed at this moment? And what would be the opposite positive version of that belief? What is the new belief that I want to cultivate going forward? I'm going to open our emotions wheel again. So you can start to open your eyes if you're ready. And you're going to look on the wheel for the oil that goes with that emotion that you felt. And then once you find the correlating type of plant, you're going to look at your oil stash and find an oil that you're going to work with. If you have a question, put it in the chat. Otherwise, put a one in the chat once you have your emotion and you have your oil. Great. Everybody's getting their oil. You're getting your emotion. Exciting. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to take your oil, you're going to open your oil, and you're going to say out loud the positive statement. So the positive belief. I am, and then add the positive belief that is the opposite of the belief that you developed during that memory. And as you smell your oil, you're going to say your positive belief out loud 3 times. And that is the exercise. That is the process. And you can do this as often as you want with as many triggers or emotions or memories as you want. It's detoxifying, so I encourage you to drink extra water tonight, maybe take an Epsom salt bath. If there's more tears, it's okay. And keep that oil in your pocket and work with it in the days to come, even the weeks or the months to come. This is a whole process of rewiring your brain and changing these belief systems and letting those parts of you that haven't been heard or haven't been felt be revealed. We have a little bit of time, so I'm going to stop the recording. So, everybody listening to the replay, you have the exercise, but I'm going to stop the recording so we can all share a bit with privacy being protected. Thank you so much for joining us.